Hey guys, I'm Ryan Wright.
Hey guys, I'm Andrew.
Andrew and I saw Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Today we're bringing you our spoiler review. Alright, so we could just take this from the beginning. That opening sequence with the plane, I love how they introduced each character. Because even if you don't know Mission Impossible, I feel like you get a good sense of who these characters are just from the interaction of how they introduce them.
You know, also point out what their specific job is to help Ethan Hunt out. It's not the Tom Cruise show. It's showing what the supporting cast is, and I think that's the biggest strength of this franchise is the supporting cast. So I love how they incorporate that in the first minute of the film, and
that's what I felt about Tom Cruise in this film. He's a leader to a team.
Absolutely.
You know, because in Ghost Protocol, he's like, I need a team, but I kind of want to do this on my own. You know,
absolutely.
And this one, it's like you see him as a survivor, and then he learns to be a leader.
Yeah, they're for sure an established team by the beginning of this film, and they work great together. He looks incredible just on all these action sequences. Like, how old is this dude? I can't believe it.
Because what's great about Tom Cruise is he believes every moment, you know? Yeah. He's a very in-the-moment, intense actor. It was cool how they sort of established our villain. He's not some guy who's just all about, you know, dictating. You see him kill a person up front, and Tom Cruise has to witness that, and it's his fault she died.
Everything he does is completely calculated.
Yeah.
2 steps ahead of the play. It's not, hey, I'm the bad guy, I'm shooting you, now this is a revenge story. No, everything he does in this film, he is 2 steps ahead of Ethan Hunt. The mental game between the bad guy and the good guy, I loved it. I love how they set it up at the beginning too, just like, who the heck is this guy? What's he about? And I love, like, you know, that misdirect and just, we had no idea what's going to happen just by the end of it. Great villain.
When they introduced Alec Baldwin, I love what they did with the character because I'm like, okay, yeah, another character that's like, fuck IMF. What they did with him, like, you and I love the ending of that. To me, that ending put a big smile on my face just to not see it coming.
For me personally, I thought maybe he was going to be a bad guy or something. I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen, but I thought he was going to have one tone in the particular film and he was going to stay that way the whole film. I forget IMF, I don't want it. I love how his character really had a great arc.
And how they established it.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a cliffhanger, and it's like an intellectual cliffhanger, you know? More than just him going, you guys are all right, IMF. He becomes IMF. He is the IMF now. He's in charge.
I love how they incorporate that. Now it's like, okay, I can see them going to this guy for problems. In the next film, when something a catastrophe happens.
Like this franchise
gets better and better with each film.
You would think, but it's like Fast Five, you know, rebooted itself brilliantly.
Yep.
This movie is not rebooting itself, it's more getting better each time, you know? What they did with Benji was really cool because they really fleshed him out even more. They gave him something more personal because in the 4th one and 3rd one, you're like, he's the funny guy.
He's the funny guy.
But in this one, they gave him a full character. You know, they show up front that he's just fucking like doing a job that he does not like, you know? He's fucking slacking off, playing video games.
Halo.
Yeah, and you always see Benji like, shh, and now he's just like, I'm fucking playing video games, I hate my job. When he was being tested at the lie detector, I love that scene because when he's being tested, he's saying like why he doesn't like Tom Cruise, and it's fucking not jumping. That was brilliant.
And then right at the very end, once Alec Baldwin leaves, like he takes a little second to breathe, and then it jumps up a little, and he's like, oh. And then like, okay, now you know he's really loyal to Ethan right there. He had to be there. He served a purpose in each scene that he was there. If he's not there in a certain scene, Ethan Hunt cannot complete that part of the mission.
He's essentially Ethan's number 2 in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, especially now that Jeremy Renner was kind of sidelined in the film a little bit.
Benji doesn't get asked to be a part of the mission.
The opera tickets, right?
Yeah, but even after the opera scene, Tom Cruise was like, you can go home.
You can go.
But Simon Pegg was like, no, and he fights to be there.
Yeah,
you know, and it really makes you love the guy.
And I love Tom Cruise's reaction. He's like, I'm not going anywhere, and that's that. When Benji says that, and he goes, okay. What I loved about the film too, the tone, it was so suspenseful. Even though you know Ethan Hunt is gonna win at the end, I feared for his life most of the film and his team, the team's life. The tone of the film, the suspenseful tone and the comedic timing was just so perfectly made. Just again, Christopher McQuarrie, great job on the script.
If you know he's gonna live at the end, okay, that's cool. But it's about what this movie does great is it knows how to immerse you into its moments where you feel the danger of the situation.
Absolutely.
That you're not thinking, oh wait, he's gonna be alive by the end. You know, it puts you in that moment.
Oh yeah, the Opera House. I love that sequence. I love the misdirect in that scene too. But just for from Rebecca Ferguson. We had just seen her save Tom Cruise's life, and so we weren't exactly sure. And then we see her pointing a gun at the Chancellor, and we're like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I love the misdirect in that scene. He's about to fight that big, what was it, Russian or whatever that guy was, and I forgot what he was, but that big dude. When he stands up to Tom Cruise and he sees how big he is, it's like, oh crap. And then they're fighting. It was so creative too, where they were fighting on what.
So creative. Those fight sequences, what was great about it is it never felt repetitive.
Absolutely.
They were all so fucking different.
I agree.
That fight sequence there, and because they have to be kind of quiet about it, because they can't draw too much attention, you know? Because they're in an opera house, and this could go down worse if everyone fucking hears, you know?
You know, the part where he had the gun and he gives the guy a flesh, and I was like, that's brilliant. I love those. Like, I had no idea how he was going to get out of that scene, so that was really smart right there.
I mean, the introduction of Rebecca Ferguson was great. You know, Tom Cruise gets captured. I love how there's shit in this movie that we've seen in other movies before, but rather than trying to build up to it, they get it all out of the way up front. Hey, you know that big sequence we've been promoting in the trailer? We're going to put it as the first scene. You know that scene where Tom Cruise is captured? Yeah, that's going to be like the third scene, you know? The way he got out of the situation was cool. I didn't... It seemed possible to actually get out the way he was doing it.
You know what? Rebecca Ferguson, she was phenomenal. I'm just going to call her the much prettier version of Mila Jovovich, because that's what she is.
That's all she is?
Well, she was amazing in the film too, I'm not going to lie. Actually, she really shocked me with her acting in the slow scenes with just dialogue. I really bought that she was an Asian, and I bought her motivation. She was very good. I
cared about her, and I wanted her to live, you know?
Absolutely. She wasn't just a really sexy woman to look at. She was a badass.
Yeah.
And again, speaking of Mila Jovovich, I got a lot of that Fifth Element badass vibe, you know, of the heroine.
She's just the most lethal spy weapon, and like she would be a great addition to Ethan's team too.
Oh, for sure.
And I love too how they didn't kiss at the end.
Yes.
Because that would have been bad for two reasons I can see. One, it would have been cliche. Two, it would have totally negated the fact of how Tom Cruise was like, I gotta protect my wife, and I'm doing this on my own to keep her safe.
You know, I love how they still kept on to that. It's not, you know, they're not shitting on what happened in the previous two films. So I love that they kept that up, and I thought that was a great ending where they did not kiss. They had the tension that they're really attracted to each other. But there was no actual kiss, like you said. It would have been very cliche, so I'm glad they chose that.
Because they're characters in this movie. They both know, like, especially with Tom Cruise, of what we understand of him, he probably never wants to be in a relationship again.
Yeah. And the scene, too, really quick, where she says to him, we're basically fighting an endless war for our governments. There's nothing, that we're fighting for nothing.
Oh, let's get away.
Get away. I'm like, she's absolutely right.
And I love how Tom Cruise was tempted by it.
Yeah, and because I was thinking, how many times has Tom Cruise saved the day? This is his 5th time saving the day, and they still want to...
And now he's a fugitive.
Yeah, now he's a fugitive for saving the day 4 times. Like, what are you fighting for, dude?
You can see that this guy is just struggling so much. He's a survivor at this point. He's someone who has to be on his own. He knows he's a fugitive. The beard looked fake, whatever. But you see that he's a guy who's just being pushed to his limits.
I love what they called him in the film. The bad guy called him a gambler. That's like the perfect way to describe Ethan Hunt.
The theme of him is like he gets lucky. He takes risks and he just gets lucky. And I love how they made like a legendary story about him where someone was like, all the stories about you can't be true.
The water tank sequence, oh my god. When I saw that in the trailer, you know, when he's gonna dive in, I was like, okay, I'm assuming there's water, but what is going on?
It's gonna be a cool 5-minute CGI sequence. You know?
Yeah, I had that thing, and for me personally, that was way better than the first movie where he's bungee jumping down. That was basically the underwater version of that. And I love the technology they used with the oxygen on his thing, where it showed like how much breathing room he had left. And then I also loved the way they use the camera in the shot where they're going around and showing how fast it's going. And then you see the thing swooping around and like it just misses Tom the first time. I'm like, oh dude, he's got to watch that. That might get him the next time. And then bang, he gets hit and you're like, oh.
Yes.
I love how the whole theater too just gasped.
Yeah, the way they shot it was not a lot of cutting around, and you could tell Tom Cruise was underwater.
Oh, no doubt, for sure.
You know, that thing looked a little fake, but
yeah,
it's so in the moment. Like I compared that moment to watching Gravity, that you're underwater at this point.
I was gonna say, I almost felt like I couldn't breathe watching that sequence. It was awesome.
She saves him. That was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you go so back and forth
Yeah, the
on who she
misdirect.
is. And what the people are really talking about too is the car chase that turns into a motorcycle race. You know,
I love
like the
that
way
sequence.
they did that.
Oh, man.
Because Tom Cruise in a car against a bunch of motorcycles, it's like, it looks great, it's intense, but there's also the feeling like, well, he just has to like nudge them, you know?
Yeah.
And then when the car, like, you could tell that was real, you know? I can't tell if Tom Cruise was really in there, but you could tell that was a real stunt.
Pretty sure he does just about all his stunts. But in the sequence in the Beamer where they're backflipping, like
Yeah.
backflipping, and then they land, and I love when Jeremy Renner comes in there to save them with the 4x4. And then immediately we go right from that car sequence right into the motorcycle. It's like, now we're not taking a break. Let's go pump it up 120 now and go into a crazy motorcycle. And what I loved about that motorcycle sequence with the Christopher McQuarrie and the DP, the director of photography, did, they put the camera a lot of times on the bikes. So you got a lot of the POV shots, so it felt like we, the audience, it felt like we were riding the bikes, and like I felt like I was falling over, about to hit the ground. It was putting me in an uncomfortable position in a good way.
And the fact that Tom Cruise really did that.
With no helmet.
At one point, my girlfriend whispered to me...
I'm scared for this guy's life.
No, she said, is that really Tom Cruise? Like, there's no way. Like, you could tell, like, when some stuff was visual, like, they visual FX, you know, cars and shit.
Yeah, of course.
But you could tell when it was real, you know? This movie had time for good character moments. I really like the scene when Tom Cruise and Jeremy Renner yell at each other. Because it's more than just, no, here's why I believe and here's what you believe. It was like, hey, hey, Ethan, you're obsessed. And for a second there, you see how on edge Ethan is, that you're like, is he obsessed? You know, it makes you question what Jeremy Renner's questioning. And I loved how Ving Rhames was so consistent in his trust to Ethan.
Oh, absolutely.
Like how Jeremy Renner and even Simon Pegg were like, I don't know, but Ving Rhames was like. And then when Jeremy Renner snitches, I will say, like we talked about this earlier, I believe that moment for Jeremy Renner's character, what I didn't think was it wasn't like, oh, Ethan Hunt's gonna get screwed, he doesn't know about this. I thought Ethan Hunt was gonna like use this to his advantage in some way. But I wasn't expecting Jeremy Renner to be in on it.
I had a feeling something was gonna happen. I wasn't exactly sure. I knew there's gotta be a purpose for the snitch. I figured Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt knew about what was happening when he snitched, but I didn't, I wasn't sure if, are they in on it together on the snitch, or is he snitching right on Ethan, not knowing if Ethan knows if he's snitching on him. The head of MI6, I love how they unwrap that whole thing, with Tom Cruise wearing the mask.
It's like Tom Cruise just believed in this so much, and he had to prove it to Alec Baldwin too.
I love how it wasn't just, hey, this is the good. You heard them spilling their guts, saying it to his face. He can't. It
wasn't like Tom Cruise saved the day and they show up with a bunch of cops.
Yeah.
It was like Alec Baldwin is witnessing, this is why IMF is so fucking important, when Tom Cruise saves Benji's life.
Yes. I think that was one of my favorite scenes in the entire film.
I love Simon Pegg's performance in this film.
The sweat on his face, the look on his face, like you felt, oh my god, this guy's gonna die right now.
And you can just see from Rebecca Ferguson, like, oh shit, she's gonna die too,
Yeah.
And then when Tom Cruise shows up, it was a brilliant moment how Tom Cruise was using intellect, not physicality, not trying to just shoot the guy and take him down or kill a bunch of bad guys. He was using his intellect.
When we were talking about like not being repetitive in the films, I don't need to see Ethan Hunt always kick the main bad guy's ass, one-on-one. It's cool to see. I love those kind of action sequences. Awesome. But from a character perspective and from this film, perfectly well done what he did, where he memorized the entire code of all the bank accounts and said to the guy, you can kill me. You're just not getting any of your money right now. So again, the bad guy was always 2 steps ahead of Ethan in this film. That point of the film, Ethan got 2 steps ahead of him and the bad guy knew it. And when he pulled the plug, I was like, Ethan won.
What was really cool was when he trapped him. I like how it was equal revenge. It wasn't like Tom Cruise, like, hey, I one-upped your ass, other than putting him away. It was like perfect vengeance at that time. Like, you can't really piss off an audience with that, because you're like, you did that to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. The way he trapped him and just the way, with the glass with the smoking was like, deja vu, got you back.
Yeah.
I loved it.
In this one, you see Ethan Hunt have to think a lot on his like, it's
not a physical game. game. It's a mental game a lot in this film for him.
Fucking love this
love
movie.
This movie too.
I love it. I think it's the best one. It's a
great.
rare feeling.
Yeah, it was suspenseful fun. I loved it. It was great.
Well, guys, that's our review for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe to The Real Rejects. You can check out Andrew on Twitter. He tweets a lot. Twitter, Agor711. Check it out. And
tweet me.
You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Vine, and Periscope on a lot more things than what he has.
He's more interesting. He's like the Dos Equis man. He's the most interesting man alive.
You know how Dos Equis says, "Stay thirsty, my friends. I like to stay wet, my friends." Right.